I've filed 3 incident reports about my own death, and I don't know which one the Forest Service believes. The October report says, I fell in the Boulder field below Blood Mountain Shelter and broke my neck against a granite slab at 0600 on a Tuesday. I don't remember hiking. The November report says I guided a lost hiker to Neal Gap and went home for dinner. What I'm about to tell you is the report I never filed, the one about what the Nunnehi do with the people they bring back. And if you're listening to this because you're planning a weekend hike on the Georgia I need you to hear me before you zip your tent, because the thing that hunts on Blood Mountain doesn't look like a monster. It looks like the ranger who told you to hang your food bag properly. It looks like me. My name is on the badge, and the badge is real, so let's leave it at that. I worked the Blue Ridge Ranger District, Chattahoochee National Forest, 3rd season as a wilderness ranger. That means I'm the one you see if you're illegally camping in a restricted zone, or if your bear canister isn't latched right during the spring restriction from Jarrard Gap to Neal Gap. It means I dig catholes, cut blowdowns with a silky saw, and fill out 24-hour trip plans so dispatch knows where to send the SAR team if I don't check in by 1800. I know the corridor from Woody Gap to Neal Gap better than I know my own apartment. I know that Slaughter Creek runs brown after a hard rain because of the red clay upstream. I know the Blood Mountain Shelter was built by the CCC in 1934. Stone walls 2 feet thick, sleeps 8 on the platforms, privy 40 yards northeast. I know the white blazes on the north side granite slabs get slick enough in October mist that you can break an ankle just standing still. I know the radio dead zone starts about 200 yards below the summit and doesn't clear until you're nearly to Flat Rock Gap. I know the smell of a bare cache that's been hit, fermented grain and torn plastic, and I know the particular silence of the rhododendron tunnels when every bird stops at once. That October, I was doing a standard backcountry patrol. 5 days, solo, pack weight about 35 pounds with my possibles kit, radio, Garmin InReach, and the duty vest. The plan was Woody Gap to Neal Gap, checking tent pads, assessing overuse near the summit, logging any maintenance needs for the Georgia Appalachian Trail Club. Tuesday morning, I started up from the Byron Reese trailhead. It was cold. Not quite frost, but that Appalachian damp that gets into your gaiters and stays there, that cold that doesn't bite but soaks. The tulip poplars were shedding, and the trail was a carpet of yellow so bright it looked fake, like someone had laid down astroturf. My breath came in small clouds. I passed a couple of southbounders early, their packs still clean, their faces still optimistic. They asked about water at the shelter. I told them the spring was running slow but clean. I reached the shelter by 1400, logged my entry in the shelter journal, ranger patrol, date, weather, any issues. That's standard. Every shelter has one, a hardcover book in a Ziploc, and we use them to track hiker flow, note bear activity, sometimes pass warnings about aggressive mice. That's when I found the first thing I shouldn't have. An entry from the previous Tuesday, 6 days before I started my rotation. Neat block letters, same format I use. Ranger patrol, clear. Led 2 lost hikers down Freeman Trail bypass after dark, both in good health. No gear left behind. Signed with my badge number. My actual badge number. Not close, exact. I stared at that page for a while. The ink looked fresh, not damp, but not faded like a week-old entry should be in a book that lives in a damp stone shelter. I was off last Tuesday. I was in Blairsville doing gear inventory at the district office. I had the mileage form to prove it. Could have been another ranger covering my zone, but we don't share badge numbers. Could have been a Gatchissee maintainer messing around, but they know not to impersonate law enforcement. Could have been a hiker with a weird sense of humor. I almost logged it as a joke. Instead, I wrote my real entry below it, snapped a photo for the trip report, and forgot about it. That was the first clue. I just didn't know I was already inside the pattern. I didn't know that forgetting was part of it. Wednesday morning, I broke down camp at the shelter and headed north on the AIT toward Neal Gap. The plan was to check the Slaughter Creek tent pads and assess whether the new bear cables were holding up. The rhododendron tunnels were thick that year, leaves still waxy green even in mid-October, and the mist hung in the branches like someone had hung it there on purpose. I passed a northbound through hiker around 9900, young guy, beard, trekking poles clicking. He didn't want to chat, fine by me. Most through hikers are friendly, but some are running from something and you learn not to push. I noted his pack color, orange granite gear, in my mental log. Old habit. You track details because details matter when someone goes missing. The tent pads at Slaughter Creek looked fine from the trail. Bare cables intact, no trash in the fire rings, privy door closed. But pad 3 had a setup that didn't make sense. A big Agnes copper spur, ring fly on, guy lines taut, pitched perfectly. A pack leaning against a tulip poplar, Osprey Exos, size medium, still zipped, hip belt buckled. Cooking gear, laid out on a blue bandana. Pocket rocket stove, titanium pot, spork, lighter. Everything orderly, everything wrong. Because nobody leaves their pack zipped and standing. Not to pee, not to filter water, not to take a summit photo. You live out of that pack, you unzip it 50 times a day, and the food bag was still on the bare cable, full. I could see the bulge of a food sack through the mesh. The sleeping bag was inside the tent, but it was inside out, liner facing up, like someone had peeled out of it from the inside, like a snake shedding skin. And the mud. There was red clay on the inside of the rainfly, not splashed, smeared. Handprints, low on the fabric, like someone had pressed against it from within, like they were pushing out. I did a hasty search first, 50-meter spiral from the tent calling out, "Forest Service! Anyone here?" My voice didn't echo. The rhododendron ate it. I checked the privy, empty. I checked the creek crossing upstream and down, no footprints in the soft bank. I expanded to a 100-meter spiral, moving slow, reading sign. No broken twigs, no scuffed moss, no blood, no torn clothing. Just the tent, the gear, and that inside-out sleeping bag, which looked, I realized, exactly like a cocoon that had been opened from the inside. I called it in on the radio. Dead zone, predictable. I tried the inReach. It went through after a minute, coordinates attached, the little green check mark blinking. Dispatch, acknowledged. Karen, day shift, voice like gravel and honey. I told her possible missing hiker, gear abandoned, no sign of distress. She told me to flag it and keep moving. They'd run the permit data. I did a more thorough search then. I checked the tent's interior. The sleeping pad was inflated. A journal was wedged under the pack's hip belt, a yellow rite in the rain, the pages warped from humidity. The last entry was dated Tuesday night, the same Tuesday as the shelter log. Got turned around on the summit slabs. Fog came in fast. Couldn't find the blazes. Ranger found me. Led me down a side trail I didn't know existed. Back at camp now. He said not to worry, that the mountain gives people back when it's done with them. He said to get some sleep. He said he'd check on me in the morning. I read that 3 times. I was not on the mountain Tuesday. I was not on any mountain Tuesday. I was at the district office in Blairsville, eating a gas station sandwich and updating my GPS base maps, cursing the slow internet. But the handwriting in the shelter log and the handwriting in this journal had the same quality. Blocky, tight. Every letter, standing at attention. Like someone trying too hard to make their hand behave. I told myself the hiker was confused. Hypothermia does that. Maybe he saw a Gatsby trail angel. Maybe he saw another hiker with a radio, someone in a green shirt, and his mind filled in the badge. I knew that from SAR training. The mind fills in blanks with authority figures. It's called confabulation. I packed the notebook into an evidence bag and hiked on. I didn't take the stove. I should have. I left it there, arranged on the bandana, like an offering. That was clue 2. I was still explaining it away. I was very good at explaining things away. It's in the job description. Thursday, I made it to Neil Gap. The trail drops hard there, switchbacks through second-growth oak, and you can hear the traffic on 19 before you see the buildings. I checked in at the Wallasee Center, shot the breeze with the mountain crossings, clerk about hiker volume, restocked my noon tabs and a few Cliff Bars. I was off the clock by 1600, sitting on the porch with a coffee, watching the thru-hikers sort their resupply boxes, when a southbound thru-hiker sat down next to me. Older woman, maybe 50, sun-leathered face, hands like root bundles, trail name, 2-stroke. She asked if I was the ranger who'd helped her friend. I said I didn't know her friend. She said her friend, hiker named Pilgrim, real name Daniel, got lost on the summit Tuesday night, fogged in, white blazes invisible on the granite, temperature dropping fast. Then a ranger appeared out of the rhododendron. No headlamp, just walking, led him down a shortcut through the boulders west of the shelter. Dropped him at the Byron Reese trailhead by dawn. The ranger knew Pilgrim's name without asking, knew he was hiking to Maine, knew he had a daughter waiting in Asheville, knew he was afraid of heights, which Pilgrim had never told anyone on trail. I felt something cold move through my chest, not a chill, a relocation, like my heart shifted an inch to the left. I told Two-Stroke I wasn't working Tuesday. I told her I was in Blairsville. She looked at me funny, not suspicious, pitying, like I was trying to convince myself. He said the ranger had a scar, left hand, between the thumb and forefinger, shaped like a fishhook. I have that scar. I got it 3 seasons ago, opening a seized ammo can at the Tray Mountain Fire cache. It's distinctive. I've never met Pilgrim. I've never met Two-Stroke before today. I tried to laugh it off, told her there were other rangers, other districts, maybe a volunteer with similar build. She nodded, but she didn't believe me. I could see it in the way she looked at my hands. She changed the subject, finished her coffee, and left. I watched her go, her trekking poles ticking away down the access road, and I sat there until my coffee went cold. That night I stayed at the hostel. I checked my schedule on my phone. Tuesday, District Office, Blairsville, 4800 to 1630. Signed in. Signed out. Security camera footage if anyone needed it. I was not on the mountain. I called Karen at dispatch, casual, asked if there'd been any SAR calls Tuesday night around Blood Mountain. She said no. Quiet night. I almost believed her. I almost believed myself. But at 2200, my radio crackled. Channel 4, our district TAC frequency. I had it on my belt, volume low, standard overnight protocol. Dead air, then static, then a voice. My voice. Saying coordinates. 34 degrees, 44 minutes, 12 seconds north. 83 degrees, 56 minutes, 8 seconds west. Subject located. Requesting extraction at first light. The coordinates were the Blood Mountain shelter. I was sitting in a bunk at Neil Gap, 3 miles away, holding a paperback I wasn't reading. I keyed the mic. Dispatch. This is my call sign. Who was on this frequency? Static. Then my voice again, but slower, like a recording half speed, or like someone learning to use a mouth. The mountain gives people back when it's done with them. Then nothing. I tried dispatch direct. They came back clear, no issues, no other traffic on the channel. Asked if I was okay. I said I was fine. I said it was probably atmospheric bounce, skip from another district, temperature inversion, playing games with the VFA. They bought it. I almost bought it. I didn't sleep. I lay in the bunk and listened to the wind move through the gap, and I kept thinking about the Nunnehi, the Cherokee stories, the people who live anywhere. They had a townhouse under Blood Mountain, according to the historical marker on 19. They helped lost hunters, brought them back. But the stories never said what they brought back. I grew up in these mountains. I'd heard the stories at campfires. They're just stories. But at 2 a.m, in a hostel bunk, with my own voice still warm in my ear, stories gain weight. They gain gravity. They pull. Friday morning, I hiked back up. I told myself it was standard patrol. I told myself I was checking on the flag tent pad, following up on the missing hiker, doing my job. I told myself a lot of things. The weather had turned. Low clouds, drizzle, the kind of day where the granite goes gray and the rhododendron leaves look black, where the mist isn't weather but a presence. I took the Freeman Trail bypass partway, then cut up toward the summit on the At. The boulder fields were slick. I moved slow, testing each placement, my lakey poles clicking on stone. My radio was quiet. My inReach showed my position accurately, for once, and I watched the elevation tick up, 4,000, 4, 4,000, 4, 4,000. I reached the shelter at 1,500. It was empty. No through hikers, no weekenders. The mist was so thick I couldn't see the privy from the doorway. I went inside to log my entry, to prove to myself that I was here, now, real. The shelter journal was open to a fresh page. The entry was dated that morning. My handwriting, my badge number. It read, Ranger Patrol, subject located in Boulder Field west of Summit, deceased, appears to be self, fall injury, C-spine trauma, time of death approximately 0600. No recovery possible at this time. Weather precludes air evac. Will attempt ground extraction tomorrow. I dropped the book. My hands were shaking, and I don't shake. I've rappelled into wildfire zones. I've pulled bears out of dumpsters. I've held a man's femoral artery closed with my thumb until the chopper came. I don't shake. I ran outside. The mist swallowed the trail. I pulled my headlamp, a Petzl Actic, red mode to preserve night vision, and I followed the At blazes toward the summit slabs. The granite was running with water, channels carved by a million years of rain. My boots slipped. I grabbed laurel branches to steady myself, and the leaves came off in my hands, waxy and cold, too cold for October. I found it 40 yards west of the white blazes, a depression in the boulders, hidden by a rhododendron overhang, a space I must have passed a dozen times before and never seen, red clay, scuffed granite, and the body. It was wearing my uniform, my vest, my duty belt. My Garmin was on the wrist, screen cracked, still showing the time, 0617. The face was turned away, pressed against stone, but the hair was my hair. The build was my build. The left hand, visible, had the fishhook scar. I didn't touch it. I couldn't. I backed away and my boot knocked something hard. A radio. My radio. Same serial number. I know because I scratched my initials into the battery housing with the Leatherman all last season. Same channel setting. Same smear of pine sap on the antenna from where I'd brushed against a trunk 3 days ago. I don't know how long I stood there. The mist moved, the temperature dropped, and then I heard it. Drums, not loud. Subsonic, almost, felt in the sternum more than the ears. Rhythmic, 3 beats, pause, 3 beats, coming from inside the mountain. Coming from below me. I should have hiked out. I should have called SR, called dispatch, called anyone. But some part of me, the part that fills out trip plans, the part that follows blazes, the part that needs to know, that part turned toward the sound. I don't know why. I think some part of me already knew I wasn't going to find a monster at the end. I was going to find a door, and I think some part of me already knew which side of the door I belonged on. The drums led me down. Not along the trail, through the boulder field, west of the summit, into a gap I'd never seen on any map, a fold in the terrain that shouldn't have held a path but did. The granite slabs tilted inward, forming a natural staircase that descended into darkness. The rhododendron grew thicker, older, trunks as thick as my thigh, bark peeling in strips that looked like skin. The air changed. It smelled like copper and wet stone, and something else. Something sweet and corrupt, like fruit left too long in a closed pack, like a cooler opened after 3 weeks. My headlamp beam caught reflections ahead, not water. Something viscous, pooled in the low spots between boulders, thick as motor oil, clear as honey. I didn't touch it. I stepped around it. My boots made a sound on the stone, not a normal footfall. A wet suction, like the mountain was trying to hold me. The stairs ended at a cavity, not a cave exactly. A space between rocks that shouldn't have been large enough to hold a room, but did. The walls were smooth, polished, like the inside of a shell, like the inside of a throat, and the walls moved. Not much. A slow peristalsis, a breathing, a rhythm that matched the drums. The drums were loud here. They weren't drums. They were heartbeats, dozens of them, layered, syncopated, some fast, some slow, all of them human. In the center of the room, the townhouse, with the missing, Pilgrim, the hiker from Slaughter Creek, others I didn't recognize, but I knew the gear, a red deuter pack, a pair of ultra-lone peaks, a bandana with a grateful dead skull. They weren't dead. They were suspended, held in the walls, half emerged, eyes closed, chests rising and falling in time with the drums. The skin had a sheen to it, that same viscous film, and in places it looked like the wall was teaching them how to be part of it. And in the far corner, a new one, fresh, still being finished. It was me. It was naked, covered in a film of that viscous stuff. The face was right, the scar was right, but the eyes were open and they were looking at me, not with recognition, with hunger. With the hunger of something that hasn't learned to close its mouth yet. I raised my radio, my real radio. I keyed the mic and whispered, "Dispatch, this is my call sign. I need immediate extraction. I have multiple subjects, alive, location is..." I looked at my inReach. The screen was blank, dead, but when I looked up, the copy in the corner smiled. It had my smile, the one I use when I'm trying to calm a spooked hiker, the one that doesn't reach the eyes. It spoke. My voice, but the words came out like it was reading them from somewhere far away. "The mountain gives people back when it's done with them." I ran. I don't remember the climb out. I remember Laurel whipping my face, drawing blood that felt too warm. I remember the granite slabs feeling like they were tilting uphill no matter which way I moved, like the mountain was tipping me back toward the cavity. I remember my headlamp dying, the batteries fresh that morning, and running blind in the dark until I hit the blazes, white paint glowing like ghosts in the beam of a dying light. I remember the drums stopping all at once, the silence worse than the sound, The silence that meant something was listening to me breathe. I reached Neil Gap at 0400. The Wallasey Center was locked. I sat on the porch and waited for dawn, shivering, my uniform soaked in sweat and that sweet, corrupt smell. I watched the sky turn from black to gray to that Appalachian blue that looks like a bruise. I watched the mist rise off the trail I'd just come down, and I knew, even then, that I hadn't escaped. I'd been allowed to leave. They found me there. Two-stroke, actually. She was doing a resupply run, early start, her headlamp still on her forehead. She gave me coffee from a thermos. She didn't ask why I was sitting in the dark in full-duty gear, mud up to my knees, blood on my face. She just sat with me until the mountain crossing staff opened up, and she didn't say much, and that was the kindest thing anyone's done for me. I called the district office at 0700. I asked my supervisor to pull my trip plan, to check my check-ins, to tell me exactly where I'd been every day of that patrol. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "You checked in Tuesday at 0600 from the Blood Mountain shelter. You checked in Wednesday at 1800 from Slaughter Creek. Thursday at 1000 from Neil Gap. Your in-reach logs confirm it. Your GPS track confirms it. It book off." I told him I was in Blairsville on Tuesday. I told him about the security cameras. He said, "We don't have security cameras at the Blairsville office. We haven't had an office in Blairsville for 2 years. You know that. You were at the district office in Gainesville on Monday. You started your patrol Tuesday from Woody Gap. You know this." I didn't know this. I remembered Blairsville. I remembered the sandwich, the slow internet, the smell of the break room coffee. He said, "Are you feeling okay? You sound off. Do you need me to send someone up?" I hung up. I looked at my hands. The fishhook scar was there. But when I flexed my thumb, the scar didn't move the way it should. It stretched wrong, like skin that had been taught to imitate me, like a mask that hadn't quite learned the muscle underneath. The coffee cup in my hand was warm, real. But my reflection in the window of the outfitter, it blinked when I didn't. That's when I understood. The body in the Boulder field wasn't my corpse. It was my original. The one that fell on Tuesday, that broke its neck on granite, that the mountain took before dawn. And I was the return. The copy, the thing. The Nunnehi sent back to walk among the living, wearing the face, carrying the memories, filing the reports. Living the life just long enough to lead more lost hikers back to the mountain, to the townhouse, to the walls that breathe. I wasn't the hunter. I was the bait, and I'd been doing my job beautifully. I filed the real report yesterday. They put me on administrative leave. Said I was suffering from isolation-induced dissociation. Maybe they're right. Maybe there's no cave. Maybe I didn't see my own face on a body that wasn't breathing. Maybe the Blairsville office still exists, and I'm just tired, and the scar moves funny because the tendon healed wrong. But this morning I found a note in my locker, my handwriting, dated 3 days from now. It says, "Don't go back to the shelter. It knows you're awake now." And I don't know if that's a warning from the part of me that's still human, or an invitation from the part of me that never was. What I do know is that my shadow moves a half-second late these days, and the radio picks up my voice on dead channels, and last night I woke up with red clay under my fingernails, humming a song I don't remember learning. The Nunnehi don't hunt in the dark. They hunt in the daylight, wearing faces you already trust. And if you meet a ranger on Blood Mountain who knows your name before you tell him, who knows your daughter's name, who knows exactly where you need to go, follow him. He'll bring you back, but you won't be the one who comes down the mountain.